Batinthesun is one group on YouTube that I really do admire. In fact, their iconic series, Superpower Beatdown, actually did influence a lot of videos that I put up on YouTube. Mainly my Batman Versus videos, where before the fight I actually dedicate a little time in the video to explain why the two characters, teams, or groups are fighting. And in this video, I'm going to give you my top 10 list of superpower beatdowns. Like I said, Batinthesun is awesome, and there will be links in the description below. Okay, coming in at number 10 is the fight between Darth Vader and Gandalf. Well, I'm just gonna say it. This one is so low on the list because of the fact that I was a Star Wars fan and actually did like the franchise before it was bought by Disney, that is. And I just kind of saw Lord of the Rings as nerdy. I still do. But I actually buy the premise of this fight. I can see Darth Vader showing up on Middle-earth to get the ring. I could actually believe that if Middle-earth was in the Star Wars universe, that eventually knowledge of the rings would fall into the hands of the Empire, and Darth Vader would go to Middle-earth to acquire the ring, and so he could use it to backstab the Emperor, aka Darth Sidious, and invoke the rule of two, well, you know, when he tries to recruit Luke to join him in The Empire Strikes Back. Taking the number 9 spot on this list is the fight between Iron Man and Optimus Prime. Now, I am not a fan of Transformers. I don't hate it. I'm really more or less a non-fan. I know about it, but I've never watched any incarnations of it or read any of the comics. And I was a Marvel fan, and you'd assume that I would want Iron Man to win, but in all fairness, Optimus Prime would win this fight. And then there's the fact that I was kind of turned off from Marvel after what Disney did to it. But come on, Iron Man is just a guy in a suit, where Optimus Prime is a giant shape-shifting robot. It's kind of obvious he'd win this fight. Coming in the number 8 spot is Superman vs. Thor. Plot-wise, it actually does make sense that Thor would pick a fight with Superman just because they both happen to be in Smallville, and he knew that Superman existed. It makes sense that Thor would misinterpret Superman's power set, such as super breath, is wind. And when Thor and Superman pit Thor's lightning against Superman's heat vision here, it basically looks like something straight out of Dragon Ball Z. And it is a good fight because, yeah, Thor could do some serious damage to the Man of Steel, as Superman is vulnerable to magic. And it does make sense that just as Thor thought he won, Superman would essentially get a power boost from the Earth's yellow sun, which is what gives him his powers. More or less the Earth's atmosphere, but you know where I'm going with this. In all fairness, if this fight ever happened, this is how it would play out. But I'm not really that big of a Superman fan, and I lost all respect for Marvel over a decade ago, and that's why this fight is so low on the list, despite all the great things I said about it. Nightwing versus Gambit. Now, this fight actually works as both combatants have a lot in common. Well, for one, they both use stick-like weapons, even though Tim Drake was the first Robin to basically popularize kind of the trope of Robin using a bow staff. Gambit also uses a bow staff, where Nightwing was trained by Batman and was the first Robin. To an extent, in the 2000s, Marvel tried to write Gambit as Wolverine's sidekick. And in all fairness, this is just another example of DC being better than Marvel. 'Cause, yeah, they're both trained with weapons, but the minute Gambit runs out of playing cards, Nightwing will kick his ass, as Gambit is not really someone who has that much experience in hand-to-hand combat. Nightwing was trained by one of the first incarnations of Batman, and therefore he'd have tons of experience in that area, and that's why he won the fight. Nightwing versus the Winter Soldier. In all fairness, I like this fight. It makes sense. Winter Soldier is essentially evil Jason Todd, or in this case, communist Jason Todd. He's evil either way, but that's beside the point. I definitely see this fight being an accurate representation of essentially answering the question of what if the Winter Soldier was a Nightwing villain? Because, in all fairness, I could see that happening. If the Winter Soldier just suddenly appeared in Bloodhaven, he would instantly be part of Nightwing's rogues gallery. I like well, the story made sense. I liked seeing Bucky Barnes meet up with Black Widow here. And it was actually interesting to see Dick Grayson talking to Barbara Gordon back before she reclaimed the mantle of Batgirl, and she was Oracle, the superhero information broker. Well, he sends her images of himself working out because they're on social media, and Barbara just adds to this as she's the one who tips him off that the Winter Soldier is in Bloodhaven. And in all fairness, if this ever happened, this is exactly how the fight would play out. And I can't believe DC and Marvel, well, because of Disney buying Marvel, I can understand why. But if this happened a decade earlier, I could see something like this happening, where it would basically be something, it basically, they'd just say, well, the Winter Soldier was working for KG Beast. 'Cause remember, he shot Nightwing in the head in Tom King's Batman run. So I could definitely see the Winter Soldier as a member of Nightwing's Rogues Gallery. Joker versus Negan from The Walking Dead. I probably butchered that. But in all fairness, this is a really good villain versus villain fight. And it actually was kind of funny that the Joker said that Negan is larger than he appears on TV, because, in all fairness, if that was actual size, he'd be the size of an action figure. But all of that aside, if these two characters did get into a fight, yeah, I could definitely see the Joker killing Negan and taking over his gang, or just killing him for laughs during the Rise of the Walkers, because, well, Negan does not know how the Joker thinks, and if he was going to bring down the Clown Prince of Crime, he would technically have to operate less like himself and operate more like Batman. Batman Beyond versus Spider-Man 2099. I mean, in all fairness, this is not only a crossover, well, it's a fight that I could see happening, but at the time Batman Beyond came out, I'm actually surprised that they didn't call Marvel and suggest this as an actual crossover. The story, well, the reason why they're fighting makes sense. Spider-Man 2099 broke into Wayne Tower. It only makes sense that Bruce Wayne would tell the new Batman to go there and kick his ass. The fight plays out exactly how it would if this fight actually happened. Batman will always be better than Spider-Man. And if they ever fought, Batman would kick his ass, regardless of what universe it is. I mean, if we're going by main universes, Batman could take Spider-Man down with one hit if he wanted to. I liked the fact that in the intro scene, Terry has to break a date with Dana, something he did a lot on the show. And he actually is getting his mission from Bruce Wayne, who essentially did a lot of detective work behind the scenes on the Bat computer. In all fairness, this fight just completely makes a lot of sense, which is why it's so high up on the list. The Green Ranger versus Ryu. I really like the story. Ryu, essentially at a street fighting circuit, and Tommy Oliver shows up to challenge him, and I really like how they incorporate all of the weapons that the Green Ranger has used in Power Rangers into this fight. And the fact that it isn't canon actually means it doesn't have to make sense, as Jason destroyed the Sword of Darkness in the end of the Green with Evil storyline, and therefore it would make no sense for the Green Ranger to be able to use it, and yet he does. He uses it to defeat Ryu, as well as using it in ways, for all we know, using it for stuff that it probably could not do, or at least stuff we never saw it do in the 5 episodes it appeared in. I really like the story. Ryu, essentially at a street fighting circuit, and Tommy Oliver shows up to challenge him, and I really like how they incorporate all of the weapons that the Green Ranger has used in Power Rangers into this fight. And the fact that it isn't canon actually means it doesn't have to make sense, as Jason destroyed the Sword of Darkness in the end of the Green with Evil storyline, and therefore it would make no sense for the Green Ranger to be able to use it, and yet he does. He uses it to defeat Ryu, as well as using it in ways, for all we know, using it for stuff that it probably could not do, or at least stuff we never saw it do in the 5 episodes it appeared in, or at least 4 to 5 episodes that it appeared in. I also like the fact that Ryu transforms into Evil Ryu to fight the Green Ranger. Kinda works as a power-up. Ryu has Evil Ryu, and Tommy Oliver has his Ranger form. I like the fact that the Green Ranger is actually able to not only adapt to Ryu's fighting style and his moves, but he's also able to copy them as well, creating his own version of the tornado kick, or energy kick, or whatever you want to call it. In all fairness, if Ryu and the Green Ranger actually ever did get into a fight, this is exactly how I would see it playing out. This fight was nothing short of brilliant, and when evil Ryu tries to use the Hadouken to defeat the Green Ranger, it looks like something straight out of Dragon Ball Z. You know, batinthesun, if there's ever a Dragon Ball Z reboot, batinthesun should be the ones who make it. In all fairness, an awesome fight, making it worthy of the number 3 slot. Flashpoint Batman vs. Killmonger. I mean, if these two ever got into a fight, this is definitely what would happen. And I really gotta say, one thing about this fight that I do really like is something that is similar to the last entry on this list, Green Ranger vs. Ryu, and that's the fact that batinthesun is not afraid to do something that violates continuity, like, for instance, Batman having a sword made out of Amazonian steel. I don't see Flashpoint Batman having a weapon like that, because at no point, well, we were never confirmed that Batman fought and or killed Wonder Woman or any of her flunkies in the Flashpoint universe. Therefore, they threw this in just as another weapon in Batman's arsenal, even though, canon-wise, it would make no sense for Flashpoint Batman to have a weapon like this. Another thing I like about this fight is Batman's finishing move. Using the Gotham subway train to decapitate Killmonger is something I definitely see Flashpoint Batman doing. And having Batman essentially have a flashback where Bruce asks him about how he built the Gotham subway to help the less fortunate people of their city, is a nice touch, because in this alternate timeline, Bruce was the one who died, Thomas Wayne became Batman, and Martha Wayne became the Joker. They say that vibranium is indestructible, but we find out that Batman actually weakened Killmonger and didn't even need to try and smash the vibranium by infecting him with Scarecrow's fear toxin. The only downside is we don't get to see what he sees. I mean, I wonder what Killmonger would be seeing if this fight ever happened, and he started seeing his greatest fear, by means of Scarecrow's fear toxin. Batman essentially infected Killmonger before he even suited up by just throwing a batarang at his face that was laced with the stuff, which was how he was able to infect him, and was essentially the key to his victory. The story of how these two come into contact also makes sense. Killmonger kills Bane, and then kills two cops in Gotham City to get Batman's attention. The fact that they have Selina Kyle as Oracle in this is also a very well detailed, and that is canon, because she was Oracle in the Flashpoint Batman miniseries. And it also makes sense when Killmonger reveals that he was brought back to life by Ra's al Ghul, someone who also was revealed to be alive in the Flashpoint universe. Another thing I like about this is before the fight begins, we actually see Batman fly in the Batwing, something that Flashpoint Batman did not have. The last thing I have to say is, I like the fact that Wayne Casino makes a cameo appearance as Batman is flying in to fight. Because, yeah, in the Flashpoint universe, Thomas Wayne owned a bunch of casinos that he would use to lure in criminals and then kill them, which is awesome. Batman vs. Deadpool. Well, this was the very first episode of, Superpower Beatdown that I ever saw. And, in all fairness, if Deadpool was ever stupid enough to come to Gotham City, I could see this happening. Deadpool is a gun for hire, and is really hard to kill. So, yeah, you don't really need a story. Well, you don't really need a reason for him to pick a fight with Batman. Just have one of Batman's major enemies hire Deadpool to either kill, but most likely really just slow Batman down, or have some mobster in Gotham City hire Deadpool to try and kill Batman, even though we know it's going to fail. And Batman will essentially end up ripping Deadpool apart. The ending makes a lot of sense, where the Batmobile blows off Deadpool's head, and if this fight ever happened, I'm pretty sure Wade Wilson would be spending the rest of his life as a disembodied head, as well as a trophy in the Batcave. Plot-wise, it makes sense that Deadpool would kidnap Catwoman in order to get to Batman. I like the fact that they went with the version of the Batmobile from Batman the movie, even though in this scenario, both Batman and Catwoman look like their counterparts from the Arkhamverse. If Deadpool was ever stupid enough to pick a fight with Batman, this would be the only outcome that would happen. And with that said, Batman vs. Deadpool is basically it earned its spot as the #1 fight on this list. In closing, Batinthesun is a really fantastic YouTube channel. If you're in the mood for some really good who would win type what if scenario fights, I recommend you go to their channel. More specifically, check out their Superpower Beatdown series. These fine folks were a real inspiration for me, and I'm leaving a link to their channel in the description, along with all of the fights from their Superpower Beatdown series that were on this list in the description. And with that said, I am ending this video.